It would be another 18 years before I actually sank my teeth into Three Musketeers, not to mention the chocolate bar of the same name. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to chocolate. Being from a country famous for its line of Cadbury products, I came to this country with an unhealthy obsession with chocolate, but I also came to this country with an unhealthy bias of what good chocolate is. That said, I think I recognized the importance early on of immersing myself into American culture, from its laws and its customs to its mysterious cuisine. And if I was going to apply that logic to all food, I was going to have to apply it to chocolate. After all, we're talking about two countries that are separated by a common language, but we're also talking about two countries separated by different brands. And having lived in the United States now for 12 years, there aren't really many brands that I haven't eaten, except Yankee Candle. And so with that in mind, here are 7 candy bars that I only ate after moving to America. There are, of course, several products from the Hershey's line that I could have gone with, but for the sake of time and my BMI score, we'll just go with their flagship Hershey bar. The Hershey Company is, of course, one of the largest chocolate manufacturers in the world. So big, in fact, that a whole town in Pennsylvania was named after it. Kind of like how Lawrenceville, Pennsylvania was named after somebody that wasn't me. And even though the company was founded in Pennsylvania, you could argue that it got its start in the city that I'm now sitting in. Try saying that after 4 whiskeys, it's difficult. And that city is Chicago. It was at the World's Fair in 1893 that Milton Hershey witnessed German chocolate manufacturers and thought, that's what I want to do when I grow up, even though I'm already 36. And so a short time later, he founded the Hershey Chocolate Company. A few years down the road, the Hershey bar was born, and it was so successful that he and his workers were afforded the perk of having their own company town. In fact, in general, Milton Hershey accidentally employed a kind of cradle-to-grave marketing strategy. So to recap, Milton Hershey, who founded the Hershey Chocolate Company, was born near present-day Hershey, Pennsylvania, a town that he named after his company, and where he died before being buried at Hershey Cemetery. Presumably his coffin was lined with Twinkies. Now, over the years since moving to America, I've heard a lot of Brits tell me, ooh, don't eat that Hershey's because it is stodgy or awful or inedible. But to me, it's just different. I'm sorry to report, I don't really have a BuzzFeed-worthy controversial opinion on Hershey's. It's fine. No, the controversies set in with our next entry. During the first few weeks of my time in the United States, I remember seeing this curious yellow wrapper and thinking, oh, there's something you don't see every day in England. However, we do use the playful insult Butterfingers to describe somebody that commonly drops things. You know, people like Goofy, Aunt Sophia, and everyone in every British comedy from the 70s. But Butterfinger was invented long before then. Almost 100 years ago, a company based near a small town by the name of Chicago marketed both the Butterfinger and the Baby Ruth by dropping them, and this is a true story, by dropping them from planes across the US. This helped to generate sales but also concussions. Butterfinger was also popularized by the 1934 Shirley Temple film Baby Take a Bow. There must be something about peanut butter-based chocolate bars that are easier to market through fun-sized characters, because the trick was repeated with Reese's Pieces in E.T. And long-time viewers of this channel will know that I have a love-hate relationship with peanut butter. If I'm in the mood, I can eat a Butterfinger, but that doesn't mean you should send me them in the mail again, because just know that my mood changes quite rapidly after eating one. That said, Butterfinger does have the distinction of being the first peanut butter chocolate combo I ever had. The second were these. I was reluctant to include these at first because they're not technically bars, but given their elongated wrappers, they get a free pass. Apparently there was something in the air in the early 1920s, just like Butterfinger and Baby Ruth. That's when the H.B. Reese Candy Company was formed. But that's not all. In another twist of confectionery fate, its founder, H.B. Reese, was a former dairy farmer and shipping merchant to somebody you've never heard of called Milton Hershey. In fact, Reese founded the company in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and is also buried at Hershey Cemetery. That place is sort of like a Kit Kat of dead confectioners. And fittingly today, Reese's peanut butter cups are distributed by Hershey. Of course, that doesn't solve my love-hate relationship with peanut butter, but I will say this in defense of Reese's, I do prefer the texture to the crispy texture of Butterfinger. And now that we've got those out of the way, let's move on to the final four with whom I have a love-love relationship. It turns out that turkey isn't the only bird that Americans eat at this time of year. The same is also true of Dove, the chocolate bar. Introduced in 1939, it wasn't named after the animal at all, but after Dove Candies and Ice Cream, a company owned by the Greek-American entrepreneur Leo Stefanos. And who wants to tell me where that company was based? You guessed it, right here. Not in this room. That would be strange. It's too small, for one. No, I mean in Chicago again. Now, like a lot of chocolate bars, Dove was later bought out by another company, in this case, Mars Corporation. And it was weird for me because even though I'd not had Dove chocolate before, the taste was instantly recognizable. And that's because the product is marketed in the UK and Ireland as Galaxy. So how about that? Mars, Galaxy? It's like they're trying to create a whole universe of products. That was intended. Anyway, this whole thing about having different names on either side of the pond for essentially the same thing is also true of the final three entries. Who doesn't love a good Mounds bar? Introduced by Armenian immigrants in 1920, this coconut-based dark chocolate bar really took off in the 1940s with the US military. Shortly after this prompted the launch of the milk chocolate version, Almond Joy. And I have to say that being a big fan of both, but particularly the dark chocolate variety, I can often be found conducting a sermon on the mound. It's Sermon on the Mount. But once again, as a long-time fan of both chocolate and coconut, it struck a familiar chord. And that's because, on the other side of the pond, a virtually identical bar was launched in 1951 by the name of Bounty, a divisive chocolate bar that's still widely available today. But despite the naming differences, this is one instance in which I'm not routinely confused. And that's because both countries use a blue wrapper to denote milk chocolate and a red wrapper to denote dark chocolate. Either way, they're essentially the same thing. You might almost say they're all for one and one for all. A phrase that's never been more appropriate than now. Okay, alright, I confess, I did encounter a Three Musketeers bar in 1990 in Florida, but I didn't eat one, it was just wedged inside a vending machine. It would be another 18 years before I actually sank my teeth into Three Musketeers, not to mention the chocolate bar of the same name. Also distributed by Mars Incorporated, it was launched by the company in 1932 and originally consisted of 3 different flavoured bars. Hence, you know, Three Musketeers. However, due to wartime restrictions on sugar, its strawberry and vanilla flavours were phased out to make way for the singular chocolate-covered whipped mousse bar that we know today. And this, upon eating it for the first time, was approximately my reaction. This is nice, but again, really familiar. And that's because, in Britain and throughout the world, Mars Incorporated markets the Three Musketeers as Milky Way. They really are going for the whole universe thing. And if you want to know why this is so confusing to Brits, roll up our final entry. That's right, the US has its own chocolate bar called Milky Way that's different from the other one, and what's more, it's also owned by Mars Incorporated. Invented in 1923 by Minnesotan business magnate and avid wearer of mustaches, Franklin C. Mars, it is similar to a Three Musketeers bar, only with a caramel topping. And this wasn't lost on me upon my first bite. And that's because, apart from its size, it's almost identical to the Mars bar, a popular item in the UK and throughout the world, which, it turns out, is the global name for America's Milky Way. Let's just hope that nobody ever tells the company about certain other celestial bodies. As for me, I'm no longer devouring a bar of chocolate every day because I've given it up for 2020. But something I am doing every day in the lead up to Christmas is posting videos. To make sure you stay on this Vlogmas train, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and jingle my little bell. This video, and I dare say some of the chocolate bars, were made possible by my patrons. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until tomorrow's video, goodbye.